I'm actually curious, okay, Irish laddie. So let's say 50 people decided that they wanted to open a cell phone plant or whatever, but that is true. The average like cell phone plant worker isn't going to have the capital to invest in this to do it. How would they do that? How would they respond to that?
Yeah, okay, so I admit the theory on this is pretty expansive, and I don't know all of it. But, as I understand it, the way you would address this problem would be that a large amount of social capital would be diverted to what are essentially publicly owned investment firms, democratically run.
Central planning, dude. You just told me you don't believe in central planning. What is central planning, dude?
I do. Okay, it's no more central planning than investment firms.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay, wait. Can I just real quick? So the reason why X kills me saying this is central planning is because in a capitalist system, these firms would open and close based on market demand. That's what makes it market-oriented or capitalist-oriented. But you're making it sound like you would basically have social planners, which would make it a planned market, a planned economy. No?
The difference, as I understand it, would be essentially these publicly run investment firms. They would be communes of democratically elected representatives who would do their best to represent the artistic and economic needs of their people, would have cases brought to them, say, I have a phenomenal idea for breakfast cereal. Here is a test product that I have produced using funds that I got from a lesser grant. Do you like this test cereal? I would like to see it being produced in factories.
This sounds like a plan.
You told me you don't believe in central planning. What you're describing is central planning.
Yeah, this sounds exactly like central planning. Like, I don't understand.
This is not how central... I'm sorry. Okay, this could be a confusion of terms.
Okay, you support central
Wait,
planning.
calm down.
Excuse me, shut the fuck up.
He accused me of lying. He says he doesn't support central planning. He just supports...
Maybe we think of different things about what central planning is. Well, but like seriously, I don't know what you would think central planning is, because this sounds like central planning. If a publicly owned firm deciding which products make it to market or not, this sounds like a planned economy.
Let's clarify what we think of by central economy, planning and central economy, because when I think of it, I think of a USSR style, a set of unelected party representatives determine the needs of the people.
Whether it's elected or not doesn't make it planned or unplanned, right? It's whether or not market forces are dictating something or some central body is dictating something, no?
So now, obviously, you're for making that illegal. You're for abolishing that.
I'm for above a certain business size that would be arbitrarily determined by a democratically elected government, all businesses being required to be democratically owned. So at a certain point, you would have to implement some kind of wage threshold to make sure that no person makes so much more than another, and everyone would have the ability to vote on like key business decisions. The extent to which this would be possible and the exact ways in which it would be implemented would vary from business to business.
Okay, so what would your ideal cutoff point be?
I don't really I mean, I don't know. I feel like 3 people, 4 or 5.
3 people.
So to take one step back here, tying everything together, you say you support market socialism. I'm saying that's not markets, because fundamentally markets are an act of distributing capital and distributing labor to determine the optimal production of goods. And the fundamental thing is that markets do that, whereas you're advocating that be done by like a vote of some governing body, which technically isn't a government. You said it's a non-government or non-elected body. So my problem with you calling yourself a market socialism is that you don't support using markets to determine the distribution or the allocation of goods and services, or the allocation
of the popularity of those goods, aka the demand, would be the critical factor in determining the prolonged success of any initiative.
I guess the big difference is
I'm sorry if you don't like it. It is a market. It's a different kind of market, but it is a market.
What you're describing, so basically there's a committee that determines how much to produce of some good or service.
There is a committee that is responsible for the allocation of capital to people interested in building up their product or their service.
Wait, so I'm confused. How do they even decide, though?
Well, ideally, the cases would be brought before them. And these, by the way, this is not like one national council. This is very much a striated bureaucratic initiative. But like I said, if you have a breakfast cereal you want to propose, you come up with a product, you get yourself a fancy name, you test market it. With your
so
friends,
basically, it's Shark Tank, like for all sorts of.
Okay, so there's no profit motive. So you expect investors and people to vote to make optimal decisions with no profit motive. And I take huge issue with that. I think that was an irresponsible statement, Destiny. There is zero evidence to support that if you remove profit motive, investors and suppliers will make optimal
So what you're saying is that, like, in a market, that 2 competing firms, the more efficient firm will survive because that's how markets work. They'll be able to save money, charge less to their customers, or pay more to their employees, et cetera, because they're more efficient. What Irish Laddie is saying is that this same burden of economic costs would be accounted for in some sort of public deliberation where some company would, or not some company, but some elected body of workers would make a decision between 2 competing firms and then shut down the least efficient one. That's what I think he's saying.
I don't know if you're saying that. So when you say
I am, that is essentially what
so
I said.
they're not motivated by profit to make optimal production decisions. So when they're wrong, what happens? They make a horrible investment. What incentive do they have not to make that?
Well, the incentive would be you'd be held accountable via voting. Like people would vote
What
you
does
out.
that mean?
There are-
Accountable? Like,
there
what
are
happens?
You would
there
be
are
voted
multiple
out.
Incentives. Wait, there are multiple incentives. For one, and I know that capitalists have a hard time understanding this. I think people generally like doing good to their community and to their fellow, to their comrades. So, for one, there is the inclination towards doing good to society. For two, there is the benefit of social accolades that would come with making good decisions. If there is a production board that is constantly cranking out fucking phenomenal investments, buddy,
joke, dude. Social accolades in replace of price incentives and price.
oh shit, buddy. The only reason price incentive works at an individual level is because money makes people able to be more free and buy cool things. Okay, which is good because it allegedly makes them happier. There are other ways to make people happy outside of money. Social accolades make people happy. Doing good unto your community makes people happy. These are genuine incentives. They aren't like
Here's my free sub. You agree
It didn't
with
work.
that?
So you're gonna have an excuse for why it didn't work in the Soviet Union, but it didn't work. It hasn't worked anywhere. It's been tried. The economy was stagnant. Economic growth is a capitalist phenomenon. Economic growth
is a capitalist phenomenon. So economies have never grown in history in society.
Let me show you. Like, you want to look at world GDP over time?
Yeah, GDP is a capitalist metric for determining the production and wealth of a
Sorry,
nation.
pop quiz. What does GDP measure?
The total value of all goods and services within an economy.
Yeah, produced in a country in a given year.
Yeah, who determines value?
What's a better way of measuring economic growth than the amount of goods and services produced by an economy? Irish lady.
I mean, there's the average like per capita of an individual in a country.
No, because that's risen too. You don't want to use that argument. Don't do that.
Yeah.
It has. Wait, I never denied that capitalism is great for growing the economy. The assertion that capitalism is the only economic system that can lead to economic growth is fucking
the only
stupid.
one that has so far. So you're just saying,
wait. Then how did we grow? Wait, what brought us from hunter-gatherers to like the height of the Holy Roman Empire?
Farming.
Like,
Yeah, hold on, wait, real quick. Let me. So what Irish Letty is trying to say, I think, is the problem with using, if we're talking about capitalism versus any other type of system, we'll say socialism or communism even, using a term like GDP or GDP per capita is always going to favor capitalism because that metric is inherent to capitalism. So, for example, let's say we could create a society of Buddhist monks who are all eternally happy and are all self-actualized and go out to the fields every day and meditate. The GDP per capita of this society might be really, really low, but in other metrics, we could argue that the overall happiness of the society is much greater. So I think that's Irish Letty's contention with saying that GDP is the best way to measure the success of an economy or the success of a country when capitalism also has other baked-in flaws like massive consumerism.
That's totally valid. That's totally valid. I'm just asking him for a better metric. I'm asking for a better metric or one that's at least that good.
Wait. You realize that the concept of GDP didn't emerge until well after capitalism had begun to seize.
Well, okay, wait. So what would a better? So ignoring this, what would be a better metric then? A better way.
Well, in a market socialist economy, GDP.
That's why I was quoting another person. Do you want me to rephrase my arguments in my own language?
That's an appeal to authority, Vaush.
It's an appeal to authority to describe UKIP by the person who founded UKIP and left the party because of the influence of people like you?
Yes.
You know, appeal to authority
yes,
is only.
Literally just appealing to Nigel Farage.
You can learn from this. You can learn something. An appeal to authority.
Justifying anything.
An appeal to authority is only fallacious when the authority doesn't have authority on the subject. Nigel Farage has authority.
Vaush, it's always fallacious.
Do you want to look up the definition of the appeal to authority fallacy?
But you
wait, really quickly. Do you think it's a fallacy? Do you think it is a fallacy to appeal to the authority of a physicist when speaking on the legitimacy of issues concerning physics?
What you're doing.
That's a yes or no question, Sargon.
What you're doing.
That's a yes or no question, Sargon.
I don't have to talk, but if you're asking me a question, I think
that's a yes or no question, Sargon. Do you think that it is a fallacy to appeal to the validity of a physicist's
moderators,
authority?
can we get some moderation,
Vaush,
please?
Can you just?
It's a yes or no question that I think is
pretty
pertinent.
Can you guys not mute him after he's asked the question?
Well, I can, but I don't like to mute people, but I will. Vaush, I'm going to mute you if you don't just respond to me. But go ahead, Sargon. I got to give Sargon a chance to respond, Vaush. You keep interrupting him when he let him stop
It's very
talking.
ungentlemanly, Vaush.
Yeah,
No,
Expect you a bit
I don't
more
know
meat.
if you missed my question. Do you think it is fallacious to appeal to the authority of a physics professor when asking a question about physics or trying to clarify an answer on it?
So let him
Yeah, but
answer,
it doesn't
Vaush.
prove the answer if you appeal to an authority.
It doesn't prove the answer. Is it fallacious to invoke their authority on the subject? That's a yes or no question.
Because you're not proving the answer to the question.
Yeah.
So you believe that it's fallacious in any point to ever address
not-
the validity or the authority
I'm
of an
not
expert on the
saying,
subject?
Vaush, I'm not saying that when you have two laymen discussing physics and they don't know what they're talking about, and physicist X says this, then that's not a useful input into the conversation. But it is a fallacious argument.
It's
because
not a fallacious argument.
it's not
You actually
proof
don't
of
know the
answer.
definition
Vaush,
of the
let
fallacy.
him finish. You keep interrupting.
It's
He
not
talked,
proof
mate,
of the answer.
Adam, he talked for like 90 seconds and I'm asking yes, no questions. This is pretty
90
simple.
seconds.
You can Google the definition
Vaush.
of the appeal to authority fallacy if you're interested. For anyone curious, the appeal to authority is only fallacious if their authority isn't relevant. So if I'm appealing to Brad Pitt's opinion on climate change, that would be a fallacious appeal to authority because Brad Pitt, though he does have cultural and social authority, does not know anything about climate change, or at least not
Vaush.
any more than you would
Vaush.
expect from a layman.
Vaush, can authorities
But
ever
still
be
doesn't
wrong?
prove it.
That is irrelevant to whether or not the line of appeal is fallacious.
Okay, so never mind then. Let's
No,
move on.
That is not what wait, do you think a fallacy means any type of argument that is capable of being wrong?
No.
Okay, so whether
don't
or not
wanna-
it's
I don't wanna speak
capable
for
of being
Sargon.
wrong has nothing to do with whether or not it's a fallacy.
No, but it is a fallacy to appeal to authority in the face of an actual answer.
It's not in the face of an actual
I think-
answer.
I think
You
we're
often
getting-
have to appeal to expertise in order to solve
let's-
questions. You
let's
realize
move
that,
on.
right?
It's a minor
you,
point.
You
Let's
don't
move on.
actually ever have to appeal.
Well, it's
to
actually
expertise.
incredible to me that somebody could be politically relevant for online this long and not know the basic definition of a fallacy that you could Google and learn. I think I've seen infographics meant to be digested by 8th graders that have a more nuanced understanding of this topic than he does.
Let's see
but that's
if we-
okay.
let's see if
we
we
can
can-
move on. What I'm more